is Parisa Bania, and I am the CEO and business whisperer of Sixth Sense Strategy. Welcome to the first Badass Bytes of 2022. I am giddy that I have my first Badass Bytes of 2022. And I am particularly giddy that the first Badass Bytes of 2022 is featuring my awesome friend and workout buddy, Amy Anderson. Amy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. So much.
You and I have had a lot of really great conversations between 10 to 6 in the morning and 6:15 before Orange Theory class starts. And also you and I have caught up outside of the gym. So for all of you out there, know that it's novel for Amy and I to see each other in street clothes and not workout gear. And it's novel that we both have makeup on as opposed to how I normally show up, which is maybe I have both eyes open and Amy is looking fabulous drinking coffee and all of the things.
It's very dark out at that time. Thank goodness for the nice orange lights on us, right?
Right. All of that mood lighting. So the reason why I'm excited to not only just have this first Badass Bytes of 2022, but the conversation that Amy and I are going to have today really speaks to what I think best typifies a modern badass. But let me give a general description of who they are first, and then we'll go to this discussion about bright sides and dark sides. Badasses are leaders who go 80 miles an hour in a 45 mile an hour zone without checking to see if their people are strapped in for the ride, let alone interested in going on that destination. It's not that they don't care. It's just that they are so excited by possibility. They are so excited by opportunity. They are so excited about what they see in their mind's eye that they forget to check for environmental awareness. They love their people. They need their people around them. They need smart people around them, engaged people, but they don't always remember the people because they are moving so fast for the conditions. And I love them. I can't get enough of badasses. The thing that they put out into the world, their energy, their positivity, their belief that everything is possible for all of us, I think is particularly inspiring. And the reason why I've asked Amy to join me today is that she and I had a really awesome conversation about leveraging the bright sides and dark sides of personalities to really go for what's important to us or what we believe is possible for not only for ourselves, our teams, our clients, or what have you. So before I go too far into the bright and the dark side, Amy, speak yourself into the world. Tell everyone how you are an awesome serial entrepreneur.
Well, I was in a podcast recently last week and called myself the accidental entrepreneur. And it sort of came by chance. I have had a 30-year marketing career, mostly almost all client side. And I took a few years off and had a change in my life and had to decide, do I go back into this corporate sort of environment where my time and flexibility are limited with two very small children? That I was raising on my own, or do I try this other thing? And I was fortunate enough to be able to have a little bit of runway where I started consulting and then reunited with my business partner. And we started consulting some more and found ourselves doing strategy. And then all of a sudden I'm saying, oh, you can't just be great at what you do. You have to sell, you have to scale, you have to create and figure everything out for the first time en masse. And we've grown the company from the 2 of us to 20 of us now in the last 4 years.
Congratulations. And also, within the context of COVID time, so 2 of the last 4 years been in the middle of COVID. And so there must have been some times where you called on your scrappiness and your business partner had to call on his scrappiness to make things or to make things happen.
Well, I think that's where entrepreneurs are at our best, right?
Yeah.
Serial problem solvers, always looking for a better way, wildly curious about what could be. And we really put those skills to the test, I think, during that time when, we had a major disruption in revenue and
Yeah.
people and even our people plan, Parisa, right? Because, we had one of our key employees who had the daycare shut down. So that is where, and what we're talking about today, you go and see people in their full humanity. They are not employees. They are not roles. They are humans. We are humans. We are humans leading other humans. And that's where you have to just get really creative and scrappy, yes, during those times.
And so I'm curious, if we're meeting a year from now over coffee or maybe even adult beverage, maybe it's an adult beverage if I'm honest, what do you want to say you will have accomplished in a year's time?
Oh, smart scalability with even happier people.
Mm,
I think this is a year we want to scale smart.
yeah.
I think it's been explosive. And what is right for this group of people who are together trying to create? I say it often that I'm honored that they've chosen to be with us during this time. And how much growth is too much for them? How do you do
Mm.
it in a smart way? Still retain your culture, still retain what makes you special, still turn out quality work, and not just growing for growth's sake. And so we've really had to dig in and look at those numbers. And I think that we can do it. And I want happy clients too, that we're delivering quality work to. So I think I will have said, we did it and we achieved this growth, but we did it in a way that kept everyone happy and fulfilled and clients, and it was smart.
I love that. And um, what you and I are going to be talking about today really reflects humanity. We are talking about whole people. We're not talking about people that we see in an Instagram filter. We have really bright sides, and sometimes we don't have bright sides. We have some dark sides. So, one of the things, Amy, I know I've told you and I've shared with other people in the audience is uh, badasses. In my field of modern badass anthropology, that's what I call it.
Love it.
I have identified 14 traits of who I believe, or what I believe modern badasses share. And if people are curious to see what these traits are, they can hop on over to that link and they can see it in greater detail. And the thing that I'm intrigued to explore with you today is embracing our bright sides and our dark sides. So, this is how I've defined it. We hear quite a bit about boosting our strengths, also known as your bright side. It makes perfect sense. The thing is that badasses are aware and they embrace their dark sides. They know that their dark side has value. They know the dark side can be tamed and leveraged to the good. And I posted a video about this on Friday. So I'm curious for you, Amy. Um, let's unpack a little bit more first about what you know your bright side is, or what comprises your bright side, and let's dig a little bit deeper on what may reside in your dark side.
Well, it's interesting that we're even having this conversation. I think one of the things you and I talked about is I've done a lot of work in this area to understand my whole self, right? Because our dark is the person we would rather not be, but we are, right? Because ultimately we all have everything in us. It's just pronounced in some ways more than others, right? So on my bright side, I think, and actually I think our brights can have a dark. Optimism,
Yep.
right? That I am fiercely optimistic, but the counter side to that is I can overlook, maybe the reality of the situation. I think it's a little thing called Pollyanna that has been tossed around before, right?
Right.
My work ethic, I think, and my desire to achieve in a way that is healthy for myself and the people around me, absolutely. And ambition. And I think kindness. I think that I really love people and I love being in a people business and I love building companies and teams based on kindness, and so I think those have worked well for me.
And one thing is, you haven't brought up, but I'm curious about is uh, your sense of adventure and creativity.
Well, my 17-year-old said it best recently when he's exploring colleges and said, Mom, will not be happy unless I am creating. And I thought that was brilliant in the eyes of a teenage boy to say, and I said, oh gosh, that's how you say it, right? That creating brings me joy and I can get lost in it. I was up at 4:30 yesterday morning because of scheduling things, creating. And those early morning hours. And I feel like when we are in that state of creativity, that we are channeling from somewhere else. That we're really sort of in the flow of life, that it's almost coming from somewhere else, like a painter or a musician, where you're just sort of lost in creating. And I find that with my work for sure.
There is a book, I think I may have mentioned it to you. It's called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. Have you ever read that book?
No, but I know of it.
That to me is you perfectly being in your zone of genius, where it's the highest and best use of time and talent, and whatever it is that you're doing in your genius feels like play. Even if you are working the hardest you've ever worked, it's still a sense of wonder and enjoyment and play, and you never get tired doing it.
Yes. And we talk about that together, my business partner and I too. What is the highest and best use of our time? Like, what do we love? Where are we in our genius? How do we inspire others? How does it affect the people around us to be doing, sort of being in that zone? And what an achievement in life, right? To be able to find that. Some of us find it young, some of us find it when we're older, some of us don't maybe. But it is the best feeling, I think, for sure.
Oh, 100%. And it took me however many years to figure out what
Well, I just
genius
say it,
was.
Teresa. I say it. This summer I'll be 30, that I've been at this.
So it took me a long time to give myself permission to not only recognize where my bright side is, and then now watch me do a segue into the dark side. It's not only the permission to say what the bright side is, but then also permission for me to embrace my dark side, because I recognize the inherent gifts in the dark side. So if we were to hop on over to the dark side of your personality, the things that show up when you feel like you're under the most stress, what presents for you?
Okay. Well, first of all, the fact that I shared my bright, I'm not accustomed to doing that. This is even more so, sort of sharing that truth and being in that. I think we have to realize that we see our dark, first of all, when we get triggered by somebody else.
Yes.
It's the part of us that we haven't fully integrated or accepted. Yep. So when we see it, it's safer to observe it in other people.
Right.
So when we have a zing sort of moment reaction to a person or situation, that's our shadow presenting itself, right? So when I notice that in other people, or something that sort of, I have an emotional reaction to it, I realize that's something I haven't embraced in myself. And one is lazy. When we say, oh, that person is lazy, or they're not working hard enough. And I have to look at that if I've ever had that thought. Certainly not on my team. I'll see it in other places, but I'll think, oh, that's my fear of being lazy, or my perception that I'm lazy. And that's very interesting to see. My children can't stand, I say, well, when you point one finger at someone else, there are three pointing back at you, but there's truth to that, right? That we haven't integrated that part. I think if I'm short-tempered, I'm feeling helpless. That's another. And when I see it in others, when someone is short-tempered or impatient, and I say, gosh, where have I felt helpless before? That I feel that I need to take control of the situation and make something happen and be authoritative to make a change in something that's happening. And I recognize that as I've felt helpless in other times, and I feel that I have to sort of muscle up a bit.
So would control be in a kind of when you feel helpless, then you want to control your circumstances, your environment?
Yes. I want to take control of it. and I'm going to do it in a way that is probably authoritative, because that's the fastest, in that moment, that's probably the fastest way we can think to be there. It doesn't happen that often, but I will see sort of that come up, and I want it to be a certain way. And wanting things to be a certain way too is an interesting part about judgment, right?
Yeah.
If we're seeing judgmental in someone else, chances are we haven't embraced that in ourselves. And if I find myself being judgmental, I also say, okay, but that judgment is what enables me to look at a company, to look at a business objective, to look at creative, to look at words, and sort of use that ability to perceive and know what I would rather have it be. So in marketing and with my work and consulting, I can look at a company and say, oh, it should look like this, and say this. And that's judgment. That's that perception. So it has, I think that each of these sides to us, as long as we shine light on the dark and we understand it, it doesn't come and sneak up on us, right? We use it, we channel it, we know it's there. It's not taking control over us impulsively, creating behaviors that are destructive. And as leaders, I think one of the most important traits in a leader is awareness, right?
Yeah.
How do you lead when you are not aware of the person you're leading or of yourself? And what is that magic between that? And that includes, in this situation with this person, this dark side may come up, or in this scenario, how do I guide it and use it to the better good in this scenario?
You're raising some really interesting points. And one of the things that I've noticed about myself under times of stress is that I just get so impatient, because I know what the end is likely going to be, that my reaction is, oh my God, let's just stop futzing around. And like, let's just get there. And one of the things I've had to learn is, we're going to get to the destination. It may not be to the timing that I would find palatable, but there is value in letting other people drive and navigate. And that has been, like I said, one of the hardest things for me to learn. It's let people have the experience. Let people have the learning, that they will learn so much more if I just sit back and allow it to happen, as opposed to creating a forcing function to that same destination anyway. And I'm wondering, since you've got a large team, have you ever had that, oh my God, it'll be so much easier if I did it, but then you realize you're missing the larger point of serving everyone on your team, or even serving your clients if they're not ready to move as fast as you are?
Absolutely. And I think that it's partly impatience. It's also knowledge is power. So our egos, right? This part of us that contains the light and the dark, really wants to show what we know. And I am paid as an advisor to companies. So sometimes there's value in just saying it and guiding them. You do executive coaching. So there's value to just saying, well, I know where we're going, so I'll tell you, but holding space for the people to get there on their own terms. We actually may learn from their process, learn from their experience, and not just take them there. So yes, that takes a lot of patience. That takes awareness, but there's so much value in it for the people around us.
100%. The other thing I notice when my dark side wants to come out and play, and I use that term loosely, when my dark side wants to come out and play, it's largely because there is a misalignment of values, either like whoever is sitting across the table from me, or the environment that I'm in, or I haven't been kind of aware of the values that are a wrapper, let's say, around whatever the situation happens to be. And now that I have realized, all right, well, what are my most important values for me? It's, freedom, truth, justice, creativity, and loyalty. So as long as I feel like I'm aligned with the values, then what I can do is take what is on my dark side and add it to my strengths bucket. Because I know how to leverage it. I know how to channel that awesome that comes with that dark energy or that dark power. I'm wondering how it is that you've learned to take all of the juice from the dark side. My friend Mana likes to say that there's gradients in the dark side. So how do you take those gradients and add it to your strength arsenal?
Well, I think just bringing them into harmony, like having consciousness of your dark
Yeah.
side creates integrity as a leader, right? And anytime I have an emotional disruption or I feel that zing, I think curiosity has us look at it and say, oh, it's that pregnant pause that Tara Brach talks about.
Yep.
It's that, what was that? And that pause. And I think just taking those moments in the moment, looking
Yeah.
at what was that disruption I felt? What was that discomfort? Looking at it, bring consciousness to it. And then we can, when we're in situations that aren't in alignment with our values, when we're face to face with people, and I can feel that now. And it's really just to take a pause.
Yeah.
And breathe that in and say, okay, what arsenal do I need to pull from here? And it may be part of my light, right? Sometimes my optimism or warmth can get me through that. And other times it's okay, this is going to be really uncomfortable, but I'm going to have to hold a boundary,
Yeah. And, as an add-on to that, I'm wondering, when are you conscious of intentionally channeling your dark side?
When you talk about an environment that's not in alignment, mine feels a little bit more primitive. It's more brainstem. that
Same thing.
it's in there, and it's when I feel like almost a physical discomfort, and it's a rush of adrenaline, or if it's, and a lot of times it's in business. I think most of my personal life is in harmony most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's not being challenged. It's just in a situation where I'm thinking, ooh, like something I feel a zing in here, or something, I have a challenge, and I'm going to have to really like look at which parts of me I'm not comfortable with, that I'm going to have to pull out here. Because otherwise it would just flow, right?
Yeah.
When we're working in our light and in our bright, that's flowing. When we're working in your dark, it's things that I have to pull out because I know I'm up against something.
Yeah. It's so in advisory work, coaching work, the reason why people want to work with you, and people decide that they want to work with me, is that because we don't have skin in the game. It's because neither you nor I are afraid to speak truth to power. And sometimes that can be delivered within the context of championing someone, of being their advocate. And sometimes the message is better delivered, the advisory, whatever it is, that's better delivered when you're challenging. And so you can challenge within the context of the bright side, but sometimes the point gets driven home and there's an insight when it's delivered within the context of the dark side.
Yes, because when you have a generally optimistic view or way of being in the world like I do, and then you have to come in and say, everything you built is built on the wrong foundation. Everything that is here needs to be changed. We cannot achieve those results based on what you're willing to do. Those are conversations that aren't easy, and I have to pull from somewhere else,
Yeah, and it's my coach likes to say, people work with us because we know we are meant to serve. We're not always meant to please. Sometimes serving and pleasing are the same. And there are really important instances where serving and pleasing are actually not the same at all. And being willing to stand in either the dark or the bright as you are pleasing only takes a lot of intestinal fortitude. It is having the grounding in yourself to say, I am about to call on whatever it is that may not be palatable to someone else, but that is precisely what they need to hear in this moment.
Yes. Yeah. So I've been talking a lot lately too about listening, and it seems so, apparent, right? And being active listening. I think we are in different times. I think that, with our teams, with our clients, our colleagues, our peers, our partners, it's really important to really try to understand.
Yeah.
And then you will know better what to call on, to really
Yes.
kind of really try to understand what they're saying, listen to what they're not saying.
Yes.
That what you and I talked about one time, what have you not asked me? And I will ask them, is there something you haven't asked me? What do you want to know? What haven't? And really bring them out. And then you can relate to someone, as we talk about, in their full humanity, right?
Yeah.
Not with just an objective, but I think during times that we've all been living through, to relate person to person and really try to see all of that other person through the course of the conversation is important and effective.
Yeah, I mean it's content and context.
Yes.
And part of the reason why I don't like strengths-based coaching is that I feel like it only tells half the story. It's like I was saying earlier, like the Instagram filter. Like I could take a million selfies and then filter the crap out of myself, and then they would be all the best pictures. But sure, I will have face tune the bags away from underneath my eyes. It's just
well, I'll show you my neck
real.
skin. I'd rather have you see my neck skin than and show you that, and I think
Yeah.
that's part of the beauty of going through life and having some battles behind you and the experience and everything else is that you're more comfortable you have more experience knowing your dark side. You're more comfortable integrating that into who you are. You have had enough experiences in your career where you understand maybe integrity and leadership and dark and light being a huge part of that. You know?
And there's you raise an interesting point, and it goes to, have you chosen the right environment in which for you to be fully in your bright and your dark, sometimes together, sometimes only bright, sometimes only dark. That if you've chosen your environment well, if you know what is the place that is going to make you thrive, then the ability to be fully in your bright and dark becomes a lot easier. And often we forget that environment, that larger environment, whether we create the container or it's someone else's container that we step into, does this container actually feel right? Do I feel like me in this container? Earlier in my corporate career, I was in containers that I was not right for them, nor would they right for me. It's not personal; it just is. And I realized the mistakes I made over and over and over again is that fundamentally those places were not for me. And so I didn't know how to redirect the energy of my dark to support the light. And so it was a function of, I didn't have the tools, and also I don't believe the leaders of the organizations in which I was working had the tools neither. It's not personal. It's more of an observation. Hindsight being 2020. It's, had I chosen the right places for me, and I felt like I could be fully myself, would I have made the same mistakes that I made in not being able to channel my dark side? I don't think I would have made the same mistakes.
Interesting. It's I think as leaders, I think that's a really good point, that and creating, we are creating environments, and that's culture, that's the work, that's how we approach, that's the business itself, right?
Yeah.
And so I think we need to be very conscious and as we're hiring and as we're leading, are we creating environments in which the majority of the people on this team can thrive? I know it's very important to me. It may not be very important to them. And I'll tell you, what's important to me goes much beyond the work. Much, much beyond. Thank you for the stop in your career that you trusted us enough to be here. I see you in your full humanity. I am listening to you. I am trying to help you be the best marketer, best professional that you can be, and this is an environment in which I'd love to see you grow and be happy and have great experiences. And listen, with distributed work environments, this is easier said than done.
Yes.
I'd love to watch. I'd probably get nothing done if I was surrounded by all these people on our team that I love so much. I would not get anything done. I'd be walking the halls and everything. But it takes that extra something and to take care of them and to see them and listen to them. And I think a huge part of that is sort of embracing your whole self. There's that analogy, I'm sure you've heard it, with the beach ball. That your dark is like a beach ball, and the more you try to push it underwater, the more it's going to come up and hit you in the face. You cannot. You must see and be curious. And it's very easy to do that when you have an emotional reaction to something. Say, whoa, take a moment. What is that? What just got me? What have I not embraced about myself? And how can I shed some light on it so that I can use it to the betterment of myself and the people around me?
And to the betterment of the people around you, because you're modeling it for your team, and candidly, you're modeling it for your clients. So that's a really good segue. Amy, tell us a little bit more about the magic you put in the world. Tell us a little bit more about Wild Coffee Marketing.
Well, Wild Coffee Marketing is an outsourced CMO and marketing consulting firm. We, as client-side marketers, believe that every company needs a CMO. You just may not need one all the time, or you may not have a budget for it, but you must build sound marketing strategy before you implement anything. And I think in today's world, Parisa, like marketers are expected to go so wide and so deep, it's very hard to build an in-house team. So we have sort of figured out this formula that allows us to assemble fractional marketing teams led by a CMO strategist, and then sort of handle all of that implementation. So we have some really talented folks on board, and we've been around for the last 4 years.
I love it. And so, and I'll share your email again very shortly, but the types of clients or the types of projects you like to work on are typically what, or is there a typical?
Well, we have some deep expertise in a few areas, but we're really industry agnostic.
Okay.
So we do a lot of work in financial services. We love franchise and multi-location clients. We do some retail, and even industrial and a lot of B2B. So our team is fully versed in Salesforce and Pardot and CRMs. And we also have creative and a really strong social media team in-house. And what works for us is that, and it could be 5 million to 50 or an earlier stage startup closing around A, and the founders realize they need some help.
Yeah.
That's a sweet spot for us in earlier stage companies. But it's really, a lot of times you'll have a company of maybe 1 or 2 marketing team members, and then they have to outsource so many different functions because the skill sets in digital are so diverse. So, and we can work together with those teams. And in most of our cases, we are the marketing team for client companies.
And then is there something that you all just are not a fit for?
Ooh, no one has asked me that before. Early stage e-commerce. I do not like putting my team in a position to prove someone else's business concept. So they haven't been out in the world. It's a go-to-market strategy, which we can develop. But unless sort of the budget's there, the proof of concept is there, that's probably not a place that we like to be a lot of the times. I'd like to see founders and CEOs and executive teams having proven their concept, and then take them more into a growth strategy place. Growth strategies are where we really sort of excel and like to be. For example, Stretch Zone, the wellness gyms, they've been a client of ours the last few years. And when we started with them, they were at 50 locations. They've grown to 150, and they're on their way to 500 plus. So really sort of getting the strategy, the technology. Drew Brees, we're doing some really interesting work with him around the Super Bowl, and really getting them on that growth trajectory once the initial concept has been solidified.
So what is your favorite part about what you do?
Oh, goodness. 2 things. First of all, the team. I'm amazed by their intelligence, their work ethic, their creativity. I mean, to be surrounded by people who like to do what you do every day, and they're doing it with you, and for clients, I think that's some of the most rewarding experiences I've had in my life. And then really sort of getting lost in the marketing strategy work. I mean,
Mhm.
ask me to do a customer journey map or a competitive matrix, and I get really excited and geek out about
They
that.
are
So
fun.
they are so fun. Just, just to be able to think and
Yeah.
create and then share those ideas, I think is really what fuels me in a lot of ways, and how my son said he wouldn't be happy unless he was creating. I said, Eureka, like he knows what that feels like. May he go forth and find his way.
I love that, and that was a wonderful story to share, and I think that's a wonderful place for us to wrap. That neither you nor I nor your son find joy unless we are in the middle of creating something.
Yes.
So, Amy, my
Yes.
awesome friend, thank you for creating the first Badass Bites of 2022. I so love this conversation. I knew it was going to be phenomenal. It was. It's all the things. Um,
Thank you.
People interested in reaching out to Amy, please do. She is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant strategist, and a quality person, even better than that. So, Amy, be well, and I'll probably see you at the gym tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, 5:50 a.m. Thank you so much for having me, Prisa. My father told me once that meeting one person can sort of change your life in these great ways. And you've been sort of on that for me. And I've learned a lot from you. And I love these conversations. Thank you so much for having me today.
Likewise. Be well. Take care, Amy.
Thank
We'll see
you.
you. Bye.